Actually, I tell my team that if anybody comes and complains to you, and my experience actually of the last 14 years, I can tell you that maybe only 5 or 6% tenants may come to you and you may call them nuisance. And trust me, they are the one who are they're running your show, I would say, who are actually helping you to improve you. I said, guys, if someone comes to you and complain about it, you should say internally, first of all, you say thank you to him. If you're not saying thank you, but at least you say internally, because you could get to know something which could be a disaster after 2 or 3 months.
Alright folks, well, we're back here today with another episode of the Monk Realty Show. Today we're in Abu Dhabi in UAE. This is my first time here, and I'm here with a good friend of mine, Jawad from IMKAN Properties. Hi Mohammed, thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
Why don't I let you introduce yourself, maybe in a quick few lines, so that our audience gets to know you a little better.
Absolutely. Well, I've been in the industry for more than 14 years. Property management and community management. Been lucky to have associated with some of the very good firms in the UAE, starting from WAFI to EMAAR, and then moving along to Etihad Towers, and then RAK Properties, and now I'm pleased to be heading the Department of Property and Community Management in IMKAN Properties. It's been a year, but it's been a wonderful ride so far.
Fantastic. Thanks for that introduction. So it's always nice to meet people who've been in property management, for more than a decade, because we see that people come and go, from this profession quite quickly. So in your experience, what do you think are 3 metrics that property managers should keep tracking like a hawk?
Right. Well, of course, there are definitely more than 3, and that's.
You should hope so.
and that's, of course, keep checking my boss on the KPIs. Jawad, have you achieved all those?
Right.
But there are there are 3 which, of course, tops my list as well. And I would say that starts from net operating income. That's something I, as a property manager, have to keep an eye at all times. Tenant experience is one thing which I rate very high, and ultimately, the last but not least, I would say the tenant retention. Retention is the key to the success of any property.
Fantastic.
And that, of course, will build based on the experience that you offer.
They're kind of tied very closely to each other.
Absolutely, because the experience, a tenant start having an experience of a property from the day you put the property in the market. Forget about coming to view the property and then signing the document. That's, of course, is different steps altogether. That in itself each step requires an experience.
Right.
But how you present the property in the market itself is an experience, and I believe that very important. And that's why these 3 metrics, if you have a look at it, I always keep an eye on these 3.
Let me ask you a question here, right? Because we're speaking about, let's say, retail and commercials.
Yes.
If, let's say, there is a scenario where you have a stable tenant, let's say retail, and they've been your customer already for the last 5 years, and let's say they're doing reasonably well. Now, a new tenant is coming and offering you, let's say, maybe 40% more rent than what your current tenant is actually offering. How do you go about handling that? Would you prefer to maintain your relationship with your existing retail customer, or do you think 40% is still a lot of money and that's something that we should start looking at?
Well, if there is always a way to look at it. If you do not have a space, of course, you don't want your tenants to go.
Right.
The tenant retention is extremely key. Having a more rent doesn't mean that the tenant new tenant will stay there for 1 year, 2 year, based on the experience. So one of the things which we always assess for the commercial tenant is the convenient strength, how financially the strong are. Paying a rent for the 1 year 40% doesn't I would say qualify you to be the long-term tenant for you as well.
Right.
But ultimately, when you have a good tenant with experience, of course, you don't want them to go as well. But again, it's all about taking a right decision for the business. If you sometimes definitely you do get a request where the tenant wishes to move into a bigger apartment, a bigger unit, right? then you will see that how can you help them. If you have a more space and you can move in, then of course there's a lot of other steps that you have to take. But ultimately, just because someone wants to pay you 40% and you want to get rid of this, of course that's not the approach I would recommend to anyone.
No, fair enough. That's a good approach as well, because it kind of goes back to the earlier point that you said, that tenant retention is super important, right? And by doing something the way that you just said, you're emphasizing and focusing on tenant retention more than actual like new customer acquisition, right?
Yeah.
So, and that kind of plays very well into that theme. So that's an interesting point. Something that we notice as we speak to more and more customers in different parts of the world is that every part of the world gets a few things right and they can do better on a few things, right?
Right.
So from that perspective, let's say for UAE at large, what do you think is something that the property management or even the real estate industry does really well here, and what do you think is one thing that the industry can do better on?
Yes, okay. I think one of the things which the market they can do better is to have more certified property management team or the people within the departments, because the certified property manager will give the credibility in the eye of the landlord, in the eye of the client, and ultimately the team will be gelled together to speak the same language.
Right.
And that will help not only you to grow as a department, but ultimately will help you to grow the business as well.
Very interesting. So today, let's say that a property management firm is pitching to a landlord. Does the landlord even ask, hey, how many of your employees are certified? I mean, is that even a question that comes up today?
It's a good question, Ajay, and I would say is that I hardly believe that maybe anybody would be asking. I think first of all, you need to look at the scope of work, whether the scope of work actually says that the team should be fully certified. They definitely may say that the property manager or the director could be the certified, but what about the team?
Correct.
So those who needs to perform the on the ground, those who has to tackle with everyone, right?
Yeah.
So that's extremely important. But you raise a very nice point. I think this question should be maybe on the top of the list. Absolutely, certainly. So yeah, I mean, but I think so. That's the good thing is that I've seen Institute of Real Estate Management, which is from USA. They are one of the most credible organizations when it comes to the property management certification. They are coming in the UAE. I've seen that they have started offering the courses in the UAE, and which is a good sign. We have, of course, locally, there are many institutions who are, of course, offering as well, which is good as well. As well, the industry grow, as well, people, as well, we learn, that's more important. So, and ultimately, that will help everyone.
Yeah.
So, that's where I look at it. I mean, irrespective, as long as the courses that is being offered, I'm sure that the good thing being part in the UAE is that, everybody has to go through the right departments, like Department of Municipal Transport Affairs, which is DMT in Abu Dhabi, RERA in Dubai, and of course other states. So all these organizations has to go, whatever they're offering. Then of course there's a KHDA or the education houses. So of course they get certifications from them as well before they offer any such courses, which is also good. The credibility is already there, right? No, which is a good thing.
It's a really interesting point. I started thinking after you mentioned the point just now. When you're looking at large-scale consultants like McKinsey and BCG, right? When they are pitching to their clients, which are typically big corporates, one of the things that they pitch is that everybody in my company has an MBA. And not only do they have an MBA, they're all Harvard grads and Stanford grads, and
they will say they are CFA, they're
CFA, and they're extremely well qualified, they're very well credentialed, and that's why you should work with me and not work with the next consultancy, right? So kind of similar vibes, right? From what you're saying. Maybe that's something that a lot of property management companies should take more seriously, because the market has a lot of competition in property management. A great way to pitch could just be that, hey, look, we are a 50-member team and all 50 of us are certified, right? By IREM, CAI, whatever those institutes can be.
MRICS,
the Royal Institute of Standards. So it could be any of these, right?
Absolutely.
And that can just be a very good way to pitch. So I really like that point. I think that's something that companies should take, a lot more seriously. I was reading one of these, an article that you had written, where you had mentioned that as far as the UAE goes, you consider that the built environment is an unparalleled success.
Yeah.
Would love to understand, how do you substantiate, that statement?
I would say it's the vision of the UAE leadership, and which actually I would say has given me the kind of words which I've written in the article, because if you will see the way the UAE is today and the way it has transformed within the built environment, it's unparalleled, of course, definitely. And you name any part of the world, within the 2 decades, you see the kind of structures that has come from the ground. I mean that has raised above the ground. It's like beyond the imagination of certain. I mean, that's few are the actually engineer marvels,
Right.
And how it happened, because the leadership has given a clear vision where they wish to see the country, and whoever has come and did the investment, whether it was institutional investment or the corporate giants who has joined hands, the private and the government firms, and they created something. They understood what the government is looking for. I mean, what is the vision of the UAE leadership, and they created something completely different to map out the UAE from the rest of the world. Well, you talk about the hospitality sector, you talk about the residential, the office environment, you talk about the leisure and entertainment. Look at Abu Dhabi. I mean, all kind of leisure and entertainment concepts that are coming in Abu Dhabi is like nowhere in the world. I mean, they're trying to be different. Same goes to Dubai as well.
Yeah.
So it's that's kind of a vision I would say that helped. Like, for example, look at the vision now for 2040. The UAE leadership has clearly mapped out what the vision is. The focus there on the sustainability.
Correct.
So whoever the investors or the corporates or the government, they're going to do the spending in the real estate sector. They will look for the projects which are sustainable. So that, and to meet the ultimately the goal of the UAE.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that helps you to define where you are, and ultimately who sets up all these things. It's the leadership.
It's the leadership. No, that's fantastic. And the point around sustainability is especially relevant because there is a larger movement around sustainability across the world, right? And especially decarbonization has been a very hot topic, or it's becoming a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
Right? So from your experience, what do you think are maybe a couple of simple things any landlord property manager can do which would have a quick impact in decarbonizing their real estate?
See, we first of all, we UAE is going to be has called 2023 is the year of sustainability, isn't it, right? So that's the great news, and I'm actually looking forward to attending so many events that's coming in the coming months. Well, as a property manager, I would say, or I would implement something, is to have the right. Going back, I would say we should not forget that real estate accounts 35% of the carbon emissions globally. Right, and that's a huge number, 35%. So of course, every one of us within the industry, as a property manager, as an agent, as the construction, as a developer, project managers, whoever is working within that field, have their own part to play. Absolutely right. Yeah. But as a property manager, I would say is energy management is one of the things that you should start looking at immediately. And having the right technology to measure your energy will actually tell you that what steps you need to take.
Yeah.
And I think because and it won't happen overnight.
Right.
You must invest yourself into that. It will take months or maybe a year or 2 years to even give you the data to understand what your building needs, and then you start taking. Right. That's where I think you must begin with. However, as a property manager, you can also take so many small steps as well. You can first of all, engage into a communication with your commercial tenants or with your residential tenants as well. Right. And it's very important, consistency. You cannot stop today after sending one newsletter or one communication or one event, and you just say, okay, 6 months we just stop and don't. You must engage into a communication and try to create a kind of events around that theme, where you can encourage your residents. Let's participate in the recycling. As a property manager, work on how can you promote the recycling within your thing. having small information or very key information to your residents or tenants by saying that when you not at home, please switch off the lights.
Right.
When you leave the offices, unplug your the
Devices,
laptop charger, devices, and all these things, right? Apart from that, talking to your community is that participate in the kind of community events that we are participating, and try have a theme, one of the on sustainability or on energy management, right? One section is there. So all this small communication, when you start talking about it, and you keep doing it, and trust me, unless if you will stop after 6 months, you have to start from the absolute scratch. I'll give you a small example. In one of my previous role, we started recycling, and suddenly recycling bags were stopped by through certain. I mean, I will not go more in detail, but we could not provide recycling bags to the tenants for I would say 3 months, not 6 months, and I can tell you that percentage of the recycling before 3 months, before when we stopped, and after the 3 months, and it took us 6 months again to go back to what we were 3 months ago. Did the tenant change? No, hardly 80% were the same. Only 20% maybe moved out and all that. But of course, they were not getting the bags. So the entire habit changed within 3 months. So that's extremely important that you keep reminding the residents that what kind of role they have to play. And once you will start engaging them into communication, having a more constructive feedback from the resident, you accept it from the tenants, and then you implement it in your day-to-day steps, things what you do, that will help you to play your part. And again, as I said, it's not a big thing. There is a lot to be done, but playing your own part will ultimately put everyone make responsible to do their part as well. And that's, I think, as a community that we can build on and make a difference.
And now that we've touched on the theme of community, right? There's a lot of talk and there's quite a lot happening with community engagement from a build for sale perspective kind of a market, right? Like start fight units, etc. Like, I mean, there is something happening there. From a rental perspective, what do you think are some things that landlords, property managers can do to maybe like better engage their community?
I believe to engage with your residents, it's the communication. Communication is the key. If you are even managing a single unit or you're managing the entire building, a consistent communication is a key to success, and that includes communication about what's happening within the building. It's about having a eye on the repairs and maintenance of the building, understanding the pulse of the tenants, speaking with the staff who are on the ground, whether it's the housekeeping staff, the security, because they know which tenant is a distress, who is having the challenge in particular floors, who is a nuisance, maybe they're not talking to you, but talking to your staff who is within the building is extremely important as well. So I believe these are the small steps will help you to shape your decision in terms of management. I'm not going or a very what is called the major steps. That's totally different. How you manage your rentals, how you manage your facility team, and all these things. But the operation matters on the ground, because what matters on the ground is how your tenants are feeling. And once you have the hand on the pulse, or you know what they feel, that will give you the satisfaction. Trust me. Yes, the revenue at the end of your NOI is high. Of course, it will give you ultimately. But as a property manager, what gives you the satisfaction is the resident or the tenant who is living in your or working in your property. If they are satisfied and they come every day, they go satisfied every day, or they will leave, they come back from office and go back to the parking is clean, the lobbies are the lobby order is good, there's no bad order, the housekeeping is fine, the security knows what they're supposed to do, there are no so many encroachment, or the corridors are not rushed with all the bicycles and shoes and all. These are small things which makes a difference. Trust me. They may not, because the tenants are so busy, they may not come to you immediately and complain you as a property manager. But what ultimately will help you is that when they see that they don't come to you and when everything is, they will actually appreciate you after maybe 3 or 6 months because they know the word of mouth will spread.
The loud tenants who complain to you, they are actually better than the quiet tenants who just leave. And because that becomes a retention problem, right? So like at least when the customer complains, you know that they're having a challenge.
Actually, I tell my team that if anybody comes and complains to you, and my experience actually of the last 14 years, I can tell you that maybe only 5 or 6% tenants may come to you and you may call them nuisance. And trust me, they are the one who are they're running your show, I would say, who are actually helping you to improve you.
I agree.
And if anybody comes to me and my team and says that, this tenant is always complaining, I said you should say thank you.
Yeah.
I will tell you one thing. It's when I was in a school, grade 5, and my principal name was Ilyas, and he, whenever we do mistake, and we always of course get the punishment from the teacher, and if you do not say thank you to the teacher, you may have, there's another strike for you. I will not say it was very, so it was like just like that, I would say, a strike on the hand, but the reason but the importance was the purpose of saying thank you, because what the teacher has told you is not because you're bad, or it was for your own betterment. So you must understand the value of thank you, because someone told you something right. So I said same to my team. I said, guys, if someone comes to you and complain about it, you should say internally. First of all, you say thank you to him. If you're not saying thank you, but at least you say internally, because you could get to know something which could be a disaster after 2 or 3 months.
And the thing is, as the management team, it's actually your job to find out that there is a problem. Right? So when the customer is complaining, they're doing your job for you.
Absolutely,
right?
exactly.
So you're actually doing lesser work. So I completely agree that you should be thanking the more vocal ones. And I've kind of also found this interesting point. The tenants, residents who complain more, if they see that you're acting on their feedback, they become your most vocal proponents.
Absolutely. They become your advocates.
They become great advocates. They're the ones who come and give you testimonials. They're the ones who refer their friends. So they're the ones who kind of like move, right? Although they're vocal, that's a fantastic thing, because like that shows that they're more committed to making your community better compared to someone who's just like quietly, okay, every once in a while the lift won't work, I just have to take the stairs, and they don't complain, they don't talk, but quietly. When maybe their friends ask, hey, is there a vacant apartment, in your community? They'll just say, don't move here.
I'll give you another example. In one of my last experience, when I joined, there was one tenant, a couple, who has been sending complaints every day. And I was told that do not reply, because they always they always make a complaint, so don't worry about it. They're used to not getting answer. And I said, because they're sending complaints, because they're not getting the answer. If you will start answering them logically and make them understand, maybe whatever the complaints or the issues they have, does not make sense, or maybe that's not appropriate what they're asking for. Or is that something which you cannot offer, but still you're supposed to answer them. You let them understand. And I think so in property management, the complaints will reduce if you actually start talking to your tenants. If you will not talk to your tenants, the complaints will only continue. And I would say that, I also, based on my experience, if you will communicate instead of answering the emails of the clients, they may not understand how things works. You may reduce you may solve 75% complaints over the phone call than going back and forth on the email. That's another thing which I have personally feel through my experience, because when you talk, you engage. When you engage, you build a rapport. Once you build a rapport, you try to solve the problem. Then the other party also comes to the terms and understand that someone's there to help them. So it's extremely important in property management, the communication skills that will help you to manage your property well.
Fantastic. So I think we've touched a lot upon the people aspect, right, and the personal aspect of property management. Let's talk a little bit about the technology aspect of property management as well, right? You must have, of course, used various different technologies and software and things like that to manage properties and assets. What do you wish was a piece of technology that existed that can make your life a little better?
Well, there are definitely many players in the market. Of course, Monk is one of them. if you talk about my wish list, and that's something which I actually working on, is to have a kind of a proper ecosystem where I can have my community management, property management, facility management, and customer experience platforms. Though they have their own functions, where I can have the data from all these functions under one, and I can analyze under one umbrella, and run the show accordingly. I definitely, there are players for community management in the industry. There are players for the property management. There are players for facility management. There are players for customer experience as well. But if you ask me, is there anyone who trumps all? I think so. I doubt that. I mean, that's my personal opinion. There could be many. I'd be happy if someone can please share with me the name and all that.
I can share the name. It's called House Monk.
That's awesome. That's great. So that's how it is. I believe that's my wish list, I would say, and that's something I'm actually working on to create a kind of an ecosystem. I still have to join hands with a couple of service providers. But still, I would say I still be able to get kind of integration and ultimately seeing the data under one umbrella, under one dashboard. I think the purpose, I think, for this is it will gives me a much more indication how our customers, those who bought the property, how they feel, the one who lives in the property, how they resides in the property, those who work in the property, what are their term feels in, and ultimately the visitors who come in there as well. So all this experience, and ultimately, and not last but not least, how the building is performing in terms of the energy, in terms of the operations, in terms of the life cycle. All these things matters a lot. So once we have all those, and I believe there are some very good software, as you mentioned, Monk is one of them as well, and some other softwares which I closely looking how they're evolving over the time. I mean, I would say that exciting times ahead, but that something is going to be innovation.
No, that's a fair point. Like something that we also noticed. Look, we're of course a player in the market as well, but we also noticed that someone's good at property management, someone's good at community management, someone's good at facility management, customer experience. Like, so everyone's good at different things. Although they offer the other things as well. True. But they don't have like one platform which is fantastic at everything that you can just like completely get on board. I understand where you're coming from, and even the ones which are like, let's say, good at one niche use case, they are not very good at integrating onto like a larger system, right? So the point that you mentioned that I want like maybe like a single command center to manage my entire portfolio. I do agree with you. Like it's very tough making that happen. I can understand from the other side as well.
Thank you.
So let's maybe like talk a little bit more about buying software itself or buying technology, right? So many different companies expect different things when they are buying software. Like some people want to buy from a big brand name, some people want to buy software which is cost effective, somebody really just wants to buy from like a local player, somebody they can meet and like can send it to the local team, etc. So for you, when you're thinking of buying software to make your life better, like what is maybe the single most important thing that you feel is required, that you look for when you're buying technology software?
Right. See, as a property manager, I have to meet the objectives and goals of the landlord, and whether the landlord actually wants any technology or not, that's the first question. Right?
That's right.
And that's where actually sometimes the property managers suffer, because the landlord are not ready to invest without understanding the benefits that they have for the, not only for them, forget about, I mean, on the investment, on the revenue, what about the property and the people who work in there? That's important as well. So that's one thing. So let's say, of course, I've been tasked by the property manager to, of course, to find a right tool for the property, and that's where comes the industry players. For sure, the credibility will be definitely set anyone apart. So when it comes to credibility, easily maybe 5 or 6 will separate from the rest. Simple, right? And that's where I think I'll step in, and then of course that's where the communication happens. Because they have their own kind of a softwares which is like basic. They offer to everyone, right? And then what is your need as well? So having as a property manager, you definitely should know how does that work? What is your actual requirement? Because sometimes as a property manager, you may not have an IT department who understand, who can help you out to draft the scope of work,
Yeah.
or what exactly kind of needs for the technology and all that. So as a property manager, this also becomes, I call property managers an all-rounders as well, because that's where you step in and start studying about what kind of information you need for the technology, and you have to study a lot to understand the need before you even start having a discussion, right? So that's, I would say, the credibility will set apart. That's one thing. And after credibility is the customization is one element. That's where
Customizability.
because absolutely, because as I said, I mean, we just touched about that. Can we have everything under one software? No, may not, right? So as a company, that you should be ready, future ready for integration in the future as well with any other software as well. So that customization is extremely important. User experience is one thing which is important, not only for my staff, but as well as, of course, the one which I'm offering to my clients as well. Interface with the integration as well. That's one thing. Apart from that, and last but not least, the cost. I mean, I believe that the technology firm needs to understand is there are so many players in the market. I believe it's time that for them to, I would say, rethink on the cost element as well, because if you're here to make a difference, I would say think about the cost that you are, because if you really want everyone in the industry to start using tools, and you're here to make it, I would say to become a partner than just being a standalone, right? That will that can make a difference. So these are the few things which I think can match as well.
On the cost part, right? Like even we think about that quite a bit, especially because whether the customer can afford it or not, the customer has deep pockets. Look, all that doesn't matter. There's a market pricing, right? Like, and it really comes from how much value you can help customers derive, and then you can take a portion of that, right? So definitely agree. Like a lot of companies, I feel, have probably gotten the pricing wrong. Hopefully, that should be something that they keep in mind. Thank you so much for your time, Jawad. This was such an insightful conversation. Hopefully, keep touching base with you and see how the industry moves forward.
Definitely, I look forward to it. I thank you so much for coming to IMKAN, and a pleasure to welcome you here.
Fantastic.